Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hewin's Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Ian, and our guest for today is no stranger to television and radio. She's an entrepreneur, board chair director, and youth advocate, the beautiful Emprezz Golding. How are you doing, Emprezz? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm great, Ian. Thank you. I'm honored to be on this podcast with you, and hello to all your distinguished listeners.
Thank you so much for taking your, out of your busy schedule to be here on the podcast. I appreciate that. So, how are
Anytime.
you? How is the family doing? How are the kids?
Oh boy, they are online right now, learning online. It's a whole new world, 2021. But they're good, and I am here at home, just sitting with you online while I get ready to go and, attack my radio show and, do things I need to do on the road before I have to come back home before 8 o'clock. But everybody is well. We are surviving.
Awesome, and that's what we have to do in this time, right? Survive. That's all we have to do.
Oh my goodness, that is so true.
How do you manage being now the kids are at home? How is that for you? It's probably driving you crazy.
Ian, last year, 2020 March, it was a strange time, and I had to find ways to deal with my anxiety and the fear when I heard about this COVID-19 and then the restrictions and then losing a lot of, 80% of my work, and income. It was a scary time. And I learned at that time how to manage it, because I'm doing much better now in 2021 March, but it was a really hard time, watching the children have to navigate this online space and internet connectivity challenges and watching them just being frustrated, lack of social interaction, and everybody was tense. It was just a tense space, and everybody was at home all day with each other, and we're not used to that. Normally the kids would go to school, we would go to work, so it was very challenging, and we had to get to know each other a little better. And that was interesting, but there was a lot of frustration, but it also brought a lot of peace. I started to fall in love with the flowers. I would walk around the house and watch the flowers bloom and take pictures of them, and I put my hand in the soil and started to grow, and that was a bonding moment, especially with my daughter. We would plant seeds, watch them grow, we would pick, we would eat. So it taught me how to grow my own food, plant and eat from my own backyard. And it taught me patience, patience with your husband. You have to see him every day, patience with the kids and our personality clashes, being together all day, every day. So it was an interesting learning journey. And I think I am navigating the space a lot better now. I've had a year of practice, and the anxiety is not there like it was in the beginning. So we're doing okay. Online, it's challenging. You have to pick up test papers and, the children. But now my son is able to navigate a Google Classroom like never before and do documents online and upload it to Google Drive. So he's advanced with the online technology. So there are benefits and beauty in the COVID retreat, I call it. You learn new skills and new talents.
Absolutely. What do you say to the parents out there, just as how you've figured out how to navigate the space a little bit better? You've been doing this for a year now. What do you say to these parents who are still struggling to cope around all of this, being at home, being online schooling, and all that stuff?
We're not going to get it right away. It's okay to be frustrated. Just accept I'm frustrated. I can't manage this today, and just shut it down and do something completely different. If they have to miss a day of online, then fine. But what parents need to do is to find what works for them. You need to find the right space in the house. You need to, whether you have to boost your internet, whether you have to call a couple of friends and do a small pod of 2 or 3 children and find somebody to come and assist their online learning, which is what I've done with my daughter now. She's home for 2 weeks. She was going to a smaller pod during the whole COVID-19 restrictions last year, because I found it very difficult trying to work and be creative and manage her at 3 years old online. It just was not working. And, device issues and time issues. So I found a pod for her. So I think we need to look at the community support, reach out to other people and say, hey, can we get together every day, or, say, okay, I will manage your kids Monday to Wednesday, you manage them Thursday and Friday online, And I think if we look at it that way as a community, it will be easier. But as parents, especially the women, we carry a heavy load, especially if you're a professional like me, you are working and you're also managing the home. And it's not that the husbands aren't there and they're not supportive, but we take on a heavier load and responsibilities during COVID-19. And that's a fact globally. Women do carry the load, a lot of the load, trying to keep the children safe, the sanitization. I mean, I go to an ATM, I have my kids sprayed up with all kinds of things, So we take on a heavier load. And I think we must be okay with it as parents and say, listen, I'm struggling today. It's not working. Call the teacher. Some teachers are teaching online from the school. Maybe your one child could go into the classroom, if you don't have internet connection or device to help your child at home, you call the teacher or the principal and find a solution together. We must ask for help, right? We must seek it wherever we can. We must open our mouths and speak and ask for support. I think that's one thing. A lot of us are locked up in our homes, struggling, and nobody knows. So if you don't say it, then you won't be able to get the support that you need. So you must speak about it to anybody you can and everybody you can.
And how do you encourage persons like, who aren't too keen on speaking, or they're not so empowered enough to speak exactly what's going on with them? How do you help those people? Because not everybody's like, open to say, I need help. How do you help those people, or encourage? What do you say to them? To open
I say
up.
find your voice. To me, that is the solution. Otherwise, you can sit at home and write down different options. Say to yourself, this is the situation I'm in. All right. How can I change it? You have to have then a conversation with yourself and write down the possible options and take a chance, take a risk, and go and try different ways and see what works for you. But I really believe in the power of sharing our stories and asking for help.
Asking for help. Were you always like this? Were you always the type of person to reach out to say, hey, you know what? I need help. I am struggling.
Well, I've always had a loud voice. And I've always loved people. I've always been a social butterfly. So I think that I have an advantage there because it's innate, my ability to connect with people and share my story, or, have conversations with people. And in conversations, you realize that you're not alone. A lot of people are going through the same thing, and some have been able to pivot. Some have been able to find a solution. And it's when you have those kinds of conversations, then you are inspired to take action, because you will hear from somebody, oh yes, I went through this, so I'm doing this now. And I think people must form a community. I have a community of girlfriends who are all mothers, and I learn from them. We're in WhatsApp groups, and they will share, whether it's a coding website or a swimming tutor during COVID, they share information, and that information then gives me an opportunity to find the answer for the problem I have. But if I wasn't in the community, I wouldn't know that these resources were available. So I believe that we must find a community of people who inspire, who have answers, and find a community of people who are maybe doing a little better than you are in many areas, because that's what we need. We need people to pull us up, not pull us down. Right. And it can be very burdensome when you're the person in the group that is always being asked for support and you can't find it for yourself. The people you're surrounded by aren't able to assist you with the information you need and the support you need. So we have to be very careful of the network and the, that we form in our various, disciplines or spaces.
Right. I agree. And that's one of the reasons why I was inspired to start this podcast, because I want to create that space where I can speak to persons who have inspired my life and, really share it with the world and, like, hopefully allow somebody to find their own voice too.
Yes, yes, yes. And congratulations on your podcast. You're doing well.
Thank you. I mean, congratulations too on your new show, Every Woman. Come on, let's talk about that for a second. What inspired your new radio show?
Well, Every Woman was already a show on Nationwide, and it has had different hosts along the way. And when the former host moved on to another space and place in her world, the CEO and founder of Nationwide, the great journalist Cliff Hughes, called me into a meeting. And he said, this space is going to be available. And I really believe that you're the person to sit in this seat. And he gave me freedom and free reign to just go and create and make Every Woman my show, however I wanted to. When I heard the name Every Woman, I said to myself, oh, this sounds like me. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm somebody's cousin, somebody's sister, and I have lived life, and I felt I had enough experience, in this world to go into that space and create it to share, disseminate information that I think is pertinent to the development of the nation. I thought it was a good space where we can invite men, but focus on women and leading, right? By example, meaning, our health, our success stories, tips and tricks and hacks to make life better for the men in our lives, for the children in our lives. As women, we are great leaders. And as women who control the domestic engineers, we control the home. I think if I could impart some kind of knowledge and inspiration, aspiration in the women of this world, that we will have a healthier world. And my thing is, I have a big vision and I have hope for this world, especially starting with Jamaica, that we, the women, if we are informed and we are a collective body, we can make this country better. And it's about also sharing ideas like the state of the nation and looking into ideas, theories, that may not be discussed enough. Everything is being covered because of COVID-19, but there are other pandemics that we're seeing, shadow pandemics, violence against women, our health issues, diabetes, hypertension. There's so many other things that we're not discussing, crime. And I really believe in the science of crime, getting into the minds and the historical, transgenerational trauma and pain that is causing a lot of the social issues in our country. And I'm on that show so that I can start to put these ideas out there so that people will sit in their homes and have conversations to find a better way to live and to look at different solutions to the problems that have not been shared publicly yet, because we don't have the solution.
I agree with that statement 100%, and I oftentimes tell people, if there is a problem and you can't bring a solution, then I assume that you're a part of the problem, and that is the honest truth. And a lot of, as you said, there are a lot of social issues that we shove under the rug, and we mask it with the word COVID-19, and we mask it with the word pandemic. And there's so much more things going on than just a pandemic. And I mean, as much as how it is important and it's happening, there's a lot of issues that we need to bring to forums like your show, like this podcast, that we need to really sit and talk to people and really find out what's the root of this. Where is this really coming from? Because nobody just got up and violence and crime started. You know what I mean? It came from somewhere, and it starts with your mind. It comes from somewhere, and it's a root. And once we can really dissect the issue and go to the root of the problem, then that's the only way we can make this place a better country or world.
I completely agree. And, I think we need to focus in Jamaica, the study of the criminal mind. We need to look at the psychosocial issues and the history of many of our perpetrators of crime. And that's something that I can't see that. When somebody has been charged and convicted of a violent crime? What kind of data are we collecting? What kind of study are we looking at to say this is how this person grew up? Is it the fact that they didn't have fathers in the home? Is it the fact that they're dealing with trauma and the trauma has messed up their brain? When we get that information, we can now put in place measures, preventative measures, so that when a boy or a girl is at this age, we can then detect that there's a possibility of them ending up here. And then we have some clear interventions in place at the community level. These are the kinds of conversations I think we have to have as a nation, because it's getting out of hand. And I keep telling people, this pandemic, epidemic, when we look at the other challenges in the country, we cannot put it aside. Because when COVID is gone and everybody's vaccinated, right? What happens next? We're still putting the Band-Aid on the issues that has been plaguing us for so many years. Ian, it is so serious. I sometimes close my eyes and think of a Jamaica, and it brings me to tears, because when I look at the bars on the homes, when I look at Jasmine Dean, who can't be found after a year, these things hurt me. And I feel I'm still human, but I feel some people are not human. It's just we brush it aside, and I'm affected. It affects me. The fear, the anxiety, the disappointment in my people. No, it's
like gone without a trace. There's no absolute, there's nothing that can give us some form of comfort to say, okay, we are living in a safe country. Absolutely nothing there. It's just this person disappeared, and that's it. And to me, and I can speak for a lot of Jamaicans, where we feel like there was not anything done. There's not the maximizing what could have been done to assist or try to help or come to some form of solid conclusion. I don't think and that is my opinion.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm not the investigating team. I'm not a part of the investigative team, so I really don't know. But it looks like our constabulary force has been searching and has been interviewing. And the fact that this young university student who was visually impaired disappeared 1 year ago, and we cannot charge anybody. It's scary, because this could happen to somebody else. So I know as well that 2 men were charged. They were found with her phone and another item. I think it was her debit card, if I'm correct. Right. Right. So the 2 men were charged with possession of identity information, unauthorized access to computer data, simple larceny. So I don't really know where it's going to go, but I believe that the police are going to look more into these 2 men to see if they can get anything else out of them. But I think the nationwide documentary, Missing Without a Trace, really brought new light and opened up the case again. And I hope that we can find her or put some closure to it, because the father needs closure. The family needs closure to know, what happened to his daughter. And who next? Ian, me, you, who next? And if we don't stand up and fight, this is why I'm adamant that I'm going to my grave fighting. I'm fighting for the solution. And I swear, I believe that every single child at a certain age, if it is even seen that they have wayward behavior, that they must be put into a mandatory program, a national mandatory camp. That camp is where we reprogram their minds, give them therapy, and guide them, give them the right teachings, give them code and ethics and honor. So when they leave there, they leave with a skill and a different kind of mindset. We have to intervene, Ian. We have to intervene. Our young men are the main perpetrators. Many of the victims are men of gun violence. And then where are these guns coming from, Ian? How do we have so many guns in our country? Where's the border control? We need to get
Yep.
the Coast Guard working. Something is wrong.
Yep.
Something
No,
is wrong.
absolutely true.
What are the priorities? And this is my major concern. So I'm happy for these spaces where we're allowed to have these conversations. And I'm happy for, you mentioned the radio show Every Woman, because, in a subtle way, I hint at some of these thoughts, ideas, and I'm hoping somebody listening will take up the baton and go and do something about it. But I'm doing my part where I can. I serve where I can. And wherever I go, I'm not afraid to say the same thing. I will never be silent on the things that are most important to me. And that is to see my people, my Jamaican people, in a happy space, economically, socially, physically, So we have a lot of work to do, Ian. We have a lot of work to do.
We do. But you know what? I mean, thank you for just sharing your voice and just standing up to what you believe in and not being afraid to speak your truth. And I have to say thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for allowing me to speak my truth. I am very grateful for the opportunity, and I am who I am. And I think many of us are not living in our truth, walking in our purpose, knowing our why. And I think that is what everybody needs to answer to live your best life. Yeah. And to live a life where you're happy, because life is very short. It's what they say in the Bible, 70 plus 10, something like that. So, and a lot of people do pass at 70 something, some of our greats recently, Daddy Uroy, Bonnie Whaler, many of us are going at that time. So the question we have to ask each other, or the question we have to ask ourselves, what kind of life are we going to live now?
Yeah. And who defines what happiness is to you? That's the other thing too. A lot of people live their life because of what they see on social media or what society has depicted happiness is. And I mean, nobody says that happiness is whatever you choose, whatever makes you comfortable, whatever you do and it makes you happy. That's happiness, and that's your happiness.
Yes.
A lot of time we fall in that trap too, and that hurts a lot of us too.
Well, we ain't gonna fall in that trap, are we?
No, hell no.
Talk true.
I want to touch on something. Earlier you mentioned about trauma, people not being able to lift up and get away from whatever has happened to them in the past. And one of the things for you is you asked a question on your Instagram the other day, and it's what is one thing you wish you had said or done with your mom before she passed away? And I want to touch on that. And how are you now?
Wow. Oh, wow. How am I? I don't know. Wow. It's, I wish we had more time to sit at the hotel on the beach together. I wish we had more time to I always had a dream of going to Italy with my mom. I don't know why. It was just something I always thought about, like taking her on a trip where we would have a moment to really bond in a different way, And we always lived countries apart, cities apart or countries apart, since I left home at 18. And we were very close, however, because we would speak a lot on the phone. She always called, she WhatsApp. She was very savvy. She stalked my Instagram, and when I'm going through her phone, I could see millions of screenshots from my Instagram. She was always praying for me and her son, and she was just a guide while she was alive, and if she ever saw you do something which she thought was a little out of character or didn't have enough integrity that she thought we had to live by, she would call you up and say, listen, you said this or you did this, or she would always congratulate you when you did something good, or when you achieved another milestone in your life. And that's how she was with me, every milestone, every achievement, every document, every certificate, every job, she would call and she would say, wow, I'm proud of you, my daughter. And a week or so before she passed, she also sent me a message telling me how proud she was to have me as her daughter. And, you know, I do wish I had more years with her, because every pregnancy she would come, every contraction she would hold me. As soon as my child, but both my children were born, she gave them their first bath. I would breastfeed. She would make sure I'm breastfeeding properly. Tell me, get off your phone while you're breastfeeding. She was just like a super duper mom and a super duper grandma. I mean, my kids didn't need anything when Nana Joy was alive. Nana Joy would call you ahead. What do the kids need? And she would go out of her way. So, having them grow up without her is truly an emptiness for them. They know her well. Even the 3-year-old, when you ask Zipporah, she'll come to you and say, Mommy, I want to take a plane to see Nana Joy. And I was like, oh, not now, one day you'll meet her again. But she said, oh, it's okay. Nana Joy lives in my heart. So they have very fond memories of her. And I miss my mom, and I cry a lot. I'm still hurting. I am in pain, and when I think about it, it's like I stay busy, but when it's brought to my attention, or I see her picture in the living room or her piano, which I have at home, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I remember waking up and hearing my mom. She was a beautiful pianist and she would sing. And, there are so many moments I wish she was here to teach my children how to play the piano and, keep that spirit. She was a spiritual warrior, and I just keep calling on her. I believe her spirit and her energy, of course, it's still here, and she's really my guide, and she's my checkpoint. Whenever I take a step, I kind of look up and look deep within, and I say, Mommy, and sometimes I feel she's asking me how her husband is. They were married for over 40 years. And now the responsibility is with me to make sure that my dad is okay. And I've had to take on a very big responsibility. And that's challenging too, when you're the eldest and you take on the role now of keeping an eye out for the parent who's left behind. It is very hard. It drains you because you have a husband, you have a father now that depends on you, even if it's depending on you for your time, for conversation, and sometimes you feel stretched. The kids are calling at you, and then you have other responsibilities out there. You really have to learn where to take time out and hide. Take time out and find it for you. Disappear and take yourself out to a restaurant to eat by yourself so you can just breathe. Yeah, because stress will kill you. And I mean, as I'm talking to you, it's like I feel like my chest is hurting, my shoulders are burning, because it is overwhelming. However, we women are strong and we will bend. And my mother was like that type of woman. And a lot of times I see myself in her and I just want to laugh. And I wish I could say to her while she was alive, boy, Mommy, I'm glad for the lessons you taught me by example, because I can see myself, I can see you in me. And even the way I am with my children, the way I kiss and hug up my children every day and tell them I love them. I remember my father saying to me the other day, he goes, growing up, my mother didn't really hug and kiss me the way that your mother did, or the way that you do, and you could see that he recognized that. And for whatever effect or that had on him, it obviously is something that he's seeing. And I can see my mother. I kiss my children. I love you, sweetheart. Put a notice. And that was my mom. She was forever loving and hugging and kissing. So I guess for me, I wish I had a couple more years. Even if she had to go, I wish I had 2 years where I could see her actually retire and not work so hard. She struggled in silence with different aches and pains that she never shared, because that's what women do. We don't tell you all of our pain and aches, we just keep it moving for the family, because moms don't want to burden their children. And I realized that's who she was. But another thing, as I look at life and I hear the stories of other women who have to watch their parents suffer in sickness for years, and the cost of looking after a parent who is sick is another conversation we don't have. How do you provide for an ailing parent, when you have to get a nurse, when you look at the medical bills, different kinds of medication, it can be burdensome. Let me tell you, Ian.
I was just about to share that, because I had this, my grandma. She's an absolute sweetheart, and the words that you described is exactly who my grandmother was, and especially to me, she was so dear to my heart because I lived with her for most of my youth growing up, and I watched her literally pass away in my hands. Not to get morbid on the podcast now, but she was such a woman of strength and character, and she's exactly what you described a while ago. She'll call you out if you're doing something wrong. She'll praise you if you're doing something good, and then she literally, I watched her suffer through pain and aches and numerous house visits with the doctors, and then she literally just one day, and it was on Christmas Eve, she literally just took her last breath. I remember the story. She asked me to get some coffee for her. I never forgot. And I went, and by the time I brought the coffee back to her, she literally took one breath, and that was it.
Oh, that's horrible. Oh, to witness that, yeah.
But you are living your life, like how you live your life now. And I remember how we met on our conversation. It was just so beautiful, and the energy match and everything was perfect. And I like what you described is exactly yourself, whether you realize it or not. That you are exactly describing who you are.
Well, thank you. My mama lives in me, and what you said about your grandma, it's true. It's not easy to watch him get sick, and I can tell you, in reflection, Ian, when I went to see my mom that Christmas and I saw all the medication she was taking, I said to myself, something is wrong here. How can you be taking 7, 8, 9 pills every day? And I think it's another conversation we have to look at when doctors are prescribing medication and may not know the other medication you're on. As something I really want to research, mixing medication and having multiple medications at one time in your body, how could it have potentially dangerous effects? I think that's what I want to know. So many substances at one time, and I don't know if that led to her demise. I don't know. I really don't know. But I can tell you, I wish, and I always say to people, and I go back to. I'm going back on my own principle here, which is really, never say I shoulda, coulda, woulda, when I'm out there speaking. Never say I shoulda, coulda, woulda. You do, but now I'm like, no, really in reflection mode, no. When I saw those medication, I wish I could have researched how the effects, the side effects of all of them together, because she went into hospital and 2 days later she was gone. But guess what? A friend of mine called me after my mom's death, and she has now passed away. It's a friend's mother. She recently passed away. And she called me and she said, nobody, I could never tell anybody this, Empress, but, she sent her condolences and everything. And then she said to me, I just wish my parents would just die. And I was taken aback. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, they're so old. They're sick. They can't help themselves. She says, and I have to spend money for 2 nurses, right? 2 nurses, one for each parent to look after them. They can't help themselves. They can't move. She said, and they've been married their whole life. Why can't they just go together now? Because you see, so life is interesting, like as much as I'm hurting, I'm saying to myself, I would never want to see my mom. And that's not my mom. My mom is a top hot girl. She would never ever want us. She would never want to be in a situation where she couldn't help herself. Not my mother. No way. Us bathing her. No. I know she would never want that. So sometimes, the universe gives you what you ask for. And I know in my mother, she would never want to live in pain and be a burden to her children, and it can be burdensome caring for the elderly. And so we have to have more of those conversations. Wow, that was emotional. I feel like, whoo.
God. No, that was That was really deep, but I appreciate you sharing.
I'm a little teary-eyed. Ian, why are you doing this to me?
Oh boy. Oh God. Me too over here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yes, yes, yes. So, give me a little bit more of Emprezz. What do you like to do outside of this whole talks and TV shows and
TV shows and
radio?
I love lately since COVID. COVID school taught me how to grow. I love to grow my plants and pick it with my children and cook it. I love to eat my husband's food. He's a very good cook. He is amazing. And I love to eat. I love food. I love to get away. You know, I have this thing where my greatest joy is to be in a hotel room, and my kids love it. Hear the sound of the ocean and watch my children swimming in the ocean with their dad, with me, watch them in the sand, us having dinner together. The world is so hectic and we're hustling and bustling and, you know, it's so much and so many distractions that I feel people need more time for just that family time. And I think we get to a space like that where you're not seeing all the things that need to be done in the home and cleaning, and you get away. It's a moment, it's therapeutic. And that, for us, that has definitely been something that we love to do as a family. And we have a couple of hot spots that we go to, and we have some investment in a couple of spaces. So we will go and, you know, enjoy ourselves there. That is definitely, to me, especially because I don't plan to get on a plane and go to any other country for the next few years with everything going on. I'm quite happy to staycation in Jamaica. I love to get away with my family and close family friends and do small trips and explore, you know, the drive in the car, stop at the roadside and buy some street food, you know. Listen, the best. Get me some yam and roast yam and saltfish and some soup, peanut soup. I mean, there's so many beautiful moments in that. And lately, and I did promise myself I was going to do a lot more of it this year, 2021. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I remember we were having a
Yes,
conversation.
we did. And you're reminding me that I need to do more of that. So that's really, you know, to tell you the honest to God truth, I'm simply a creative. I love to create. You know, I have Aki Walk, which is on my agenda to revamp this year. I would love to encourage everybody to go and look at it on YouTube. Aki Walk was a visionary idea that came to me and my husband, and we created this Jamaica's first animated puppet series on television, and using.
I was just about to say, you know, share exactly what it is about.
Right. So it's about teaching children about their rights and responsibility using puppetry. I know puppeteering, whatever the word is. I've never done it before in my life. But as a creative, when you have an idea, you just run and do it. And I had this idea when I was in Brazil for a international youth conference years ago. And I was walking down a little area and I saw these puppets, and I was like, oh, I had just had Kush. And I said, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to come back with these puppets and have fun at playtime with my son. And when I came back now, I was like, oh, no, hold on now. This could be something. So with UNICEF support, we were able to create on Television Jamaica a 24 episode puppet show, which was based on the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, teaching children about their rights and responsibility, incorporating other lessons and social values. And the puppets are Black puppets, you know, a representative of the majority of the people of Jamaica. So that's what I did. And that was a creative passion project. And I did it. And I was so proud of myself and my team, Christina and Stephen and everybody else, all the actors and the music in there and the entire team that put it together. We were so proud of what we did and being able to do it with a little budget. Now we want to take it to 2D animation. So I want to kind of create a pitch deck where we can sell it to investors to say, hey, here's a storyline. Here are the puppets. Support us. and let's turn this into a 2D animation, meaning we can still do the puppet version, but we want to recreate the storyline into 2D animation for the world and for global distribution. So that's what's on our mind. That's what I love to do. I love creating projects. I love youth work. You know, I sit on 3 important boards. When you ask what I love to do, please, Ian, I want you to tell your listeners, please, to go on Aki Walk's YouTube and support and watch the episodes and share it.
Absolutely. I will leave it in the link below for sure. I've watched a few episodes myself. Very informative. I love the jingles. It's so fun, so light, but yet so informative, which is good.
Thank you.
I love it. You know, I love you, and I love your brain. I just want to eat your brain. You're just such a creative juice.
I should tell the people,
amazing.
if I'm losing my brain, you know, if I lose my brain, Ian, ate it.
You know, you're such a sweet soul, and you know, you have so much things going on: the TV, the radio. You are board chair from Maxfield Park Children's Home, board of director for NCB, and boy, that's such a mouthful. But you are doing it. You're out here going through it. You know, you have a passion, and that's what's driving
it is that you said the right thing. Oh my gosh, the lesson of the day. And it's NCB Foundation, not the entire bank, but the group, the foundation that serves many young people. And we're doing great things. You know, we've helped so many children with their education, and we're refocusing now, looking at the digital landscape and preparing the young people to become digital producers. So I'm excited about being a part of that leadership on the NCB Foundation board. What you said, passion,
Absolutely.
you know, and it's a new world. You know, the other day my son said to me, Mom, I want to be a gamer, you know, and I said, a gamer? He's like, yeah, I just want to game. And I said, oh, okay, it's a new world. You know, back in our day now, you know, you got to go get a job and we go to university and be a teacher and all them something there. And the world is changing, and I think we need to change the conversation, the narrative about success and what it sounds like and what it looks like. I was speaking to a young lady the other day. She finished high school and went straight into her dad's wholesale. You know, I was speaking to somebody else the other day, and she was another wholesale story. She is running her parents' wholesale, and they all live upstairs, and she's just showing how she inherited her dad's business discipline. Yeah. And we need to have more conversations about the careers of the future and the skill sets and experience that our young people are going to need to win. And it is about passion. What do you want to do? Yeah. Do you want to be a real estate agent? Do you want to own the next hotel? Do you want to create the next game? Do you want to go into artificial intelligence and get them ready now? And, you know, Ian, I think it's so amazing that the new world, everything is on the internet. There's so many courses and masters you can take to upskill.
I was just about to touch on, you actually you did that masterclass, and I was a part of a masterclass for youth. And I remember, you know, it came at such a time when I was trying to figure out if I really wanted to do the podcast or if I didn't. And then I just see this Instagram post from somewhere. I don't remember it came from your page directly, but somebody shared it. And I said, wow, masterclass, this is free. And I'm like, look at Emprezz now out here, just sharing her passion and just sharing it with the world. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. You know what I mean? And I went to the classes. I remember the first one was, I think, with Delano Forbes. And, you know, he shared about introduction to television and videography. And I'm just saying to myself, you know, the spaces have shifted now. Career fields have shifted now. It's nobody, you know, there's not the typical lawyer, doctor, go to school, have to go to college, get a degree. It's not that anymore. You know, people are finding their voices, jumping back to what you said, finding their voices and trying to find their passion and their purpose in this world.
Because we all are going to die. So we might as well live. live. That's my thing. Anyway, Ian, it's 11:05 my time from this podcast. And guess
Yep, we
I
have
love it.
been
I wish I could
talking.
stay all day and talk to you. You make the conversation easy, and you're authentic, and that's what I really admire about what you're doing and your previous podcast, because you have a passion for this and you're good at it. It's natural. So I just want to encourage you, colleague to colleague, to keep on going. And I might have to go start even though I have my radio podcast on Nationwide, it made me feel like I want to put my platform to, yes, see, you're move my digital assets everywhere. I'm saying, yeah.
Yes,
So yeah, you're doing
that's the
good.
aim
You're
right
doing good.
there.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. We have to obviously have a part 2 to this conversation because we
I
will go
know.
on. But I am very, very happy and grateful for you coming on, sharing your voice and loaning it to my podcast and my listeners. We appreciate it. I want you to continue to doing what you're doing. Just continue being the humanitarian that you are, the philanthropist, and just continue striving for excellence because you're amazing and I love you.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe wherever you stream podcasts. Tune in, same place, same time, right here on the Hewin's Theory Podcast.